Hello!
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us once again for this, the 65th episode of Drunk Doctor Who, discussing the 65th serial of Doctor Who. What episode is that?
Three Doctors. Yay!
Three Doctors.
This is the first anniversary episode, and it's
10 years.
Yeah,
Season 10.
It's the beginning of season 10. It wasn't like the other anniversary episodes, but they kind of do it right at the anniversary. Mm-hmm. This one is the very beginning of season 10, so the first episode doesn't even take place in 73, which would be the 10th anniversary, November 25th of 73. It's late 72, and the rest of the episodes are in January 73.
I feel like that just makes sense. Why wouldn't you just do it on the season of the...
Well, the beginning of this, most of the rest of the anniversary episodes occur on or right around the actual anniversary. Mm-hmm. This one is about 10 months early. Not the end of the world.
It's the end of the world.
Nope. Now, we watched it on DVD. So I have the DVD, but we actually watched it on Blu-ray, which we will for the whole season, because this is the very first Blu-ray season that we have encountered in watching the old stuff that has been
now the sonic screwdriver looks different again. I'm not convinced that Geiger counter was the sonic screwdriver. It looks different.
Might have, might not have.
Different than I remember it.
Yeah, it might have been, might not have been.
And I'm also convinced that the recorder for Troughton is the sonic screwdriver.
No, that's not. That part's not right.
Bad luck. I also think he has a fake coin that he flips.
No. He just was flipping it and not allowing the other doctor to see. All right. Anyway,
what would be the point?
What would be the point, right? So this is the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the show, and it's the first multi-doctor special. Right there in front of you.
It's hiding behind you.
It's the first multi-doctor special, which becomes a tradition for all the 10-year anniversaries of the show. And there's only an occasional time or two where they do a multi-doctor story without it being a big anniversary. The two doctors, between the second and sixth doctors, the one that comes to mind, and a brief little deal with, what are you doing? Okay. And a brief, I told you, it goes pretty much the line.
I'm just checking.
Wait. Joe Grant.
Oh, we got
the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton. Alright. Anyway, in the 20th anniversary, the 5 doctors, you have all the first 5 doctors, but this is the last appearance of Hartnell. He passed away not that long after this. His doctor is stuck in a time eddy, which is why he can't be physically there with the other two. They use something akin to that excuse in the 5 doctors for the 4th doctor. But he's not, he never came to the studios or on location. They went and filmed him in his home because the actor, like I said, was in poor health, didn't make it much longer after that.
He died that year?
He died within a couple of years. Yeah, not that year, but within a couple of years. But he actually appears in all 4 of the episodes.
He did.
And on the monitor inside the TARDIS, talking to the first two, the second and third Doctor.
What are we drinking today, Head?
I'm drinking Magma Flame because life's too short for bad tasting alcohol.
Same as always.
Mostly, yeah. And you?
I feel like this is a time capsule where you've only switched alcohols maybe 3 times.
Well,
it used to be Russian Standard, then you switched to something, now it's Magma Flame. So I feel like I'm drinking something new every week.
Sometimes I'm drinking rum, sometimes I'm drinking...
Captain Morgan.
Yeah, Captain Morgan.
Long Island.
Yeah, every once in a while it'll be that Long Island iced tea stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on the week, but I usually stick with my favorites.
Yes.
And one of these weeks I'm going to get myself some nice Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark? What is that?
Really good bourbon.
Bourbon? I don't think I've had it. I don't know if I'm a bourbon person.
Well, it's basically a type of whiskey.
I like some whiskey.
Say basically, it is a type of whiskey. All right.
Bourbon whiskey.
Yeah. So anyway, it's only 4 episodes.
Only 4 episodes.
Like you said, aired from 12/30/72 to 1/20/73.
Such a cool serial.
It is.
So it's been 10 years worth of Doctor Who content.
Right.
And now this just felt like such a big payoff to where I was just nerding out. We had everyone showing up from the past. We had so many callbacks to previous serials with the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton, Troughton, and quirks like the I can't even count how many times they mentioned the recorder and how it became like a plot device. And
well, yeah, it was a plot device.
So many payoffs.
It was fun.
I was geeking out. It was
Wait till the 5 Doctors.
Yeah. I've been excited for this serial, and it was not overhyped in the slightest. It paid off. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Seeing all 3 of them together was a hoot.
All right. Basic plot is that
I have so many questions. What if we go over episode 1 plot and then questions, then episode 2 plot?
How about we go over the plot and then that may answer some of the questions?
Yes,
okay.
But like episode by episode. So we'll go over plot for episode 1 and then ask questions about episode 1.
If I can mark the episode breaks perfectly, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Hey, so episode 1. There's a weather balloon that has landed in a forest that's being kept by Ollis. His name's Ollis. Arthur. Right. By game warden Ollis.
Ollis.
Right. And this thing fell, and he goes ahead and he calls the authorities, which turns out to be Dr. What's his name?
Tyler.
Dr. Tyler. Dr. Tyler shows up. And the wife, Mrs. Ollis, is like, well, he's right over there watching your deal. So Dr. Tyler drives out to there, and he sees the guy wave at him as he's approaching, and then there's a flash of light, and Ollis disappears. Arthur Ollis disappears. So Dr. Tyler looks at where he was. Remember, he'd seen him waving to him. He's very suspicious, so he calls unit. And he takes this, looks like a kind of a car battery.
United Nations
Intelligence Task Force. Right. Later on, Unified Intelligence Task Force, when they don't like the United Nations as much in the 21st century.
UNIT. That's the same acronym, UNIT.
Right. So the UN is unified instead of United Nations. Later on, right now it's United Nations Intelligence Task Force.
Why don't they like the United Nations?
Do you pay much attention to the United Nations?
No, I'm just.
It's a lot of crap.
It's a lot of people asking for more money.
Yeah, well, it's a whole bunch of thugs and dictators decrying the free peoples of the world as thugs and dictators when it's them themselves. You have some of the worst abusers in the history of the world on the Human Rights Council. It's really bad. Anyway, and besides, in the modern day and age, Britain has taken the United Kingdom has taken a more independent bent, hence Brexit. So they're not as much into Geneva or the United Nations or anything.
Do you think they'll be dropping out of the United Nations?
I don't know if anyone has ever dropped out of the United Nations once a part of it. We'll just see us do it, but I don't know if
I see zero benefit to people being in the United Nations.
It's
except the people receiving all of our tax dollars.
Yeah, it's like the League of Nations. It should go the way of the dodo. Anyway, but then again, once we got rid of the League of Nations, we had a nice war after that one. Or not nice, but a big war. Okay.
I feel like the League of Nations broke up because of the war, not the war broke out because the
The League of Nations broke up because it was a useless political body that usurped a lot of the, or attempted to usurp a lot of the nationality, a lot of the, what's the word? Not freedom, the...
Autonomy?
That's it, autonomy of the various countries, yeah. And in some ways the United Nations and the European Union does the same thing to their countries. It's just, when you have to go by what they say and not what you say, that's bad.
USA.
Anyway. Okay, so Dr. Tyler takes the car battery, looks like a car battery, over to Unit. Yeah, over to Unit. And he says, hey, look, I've been meaning to talk to you guys anyway, but here's what happened. You should go investigate. But I mean to talk to you because there's this deal, this beam of light that's shooting down at Earth, literally, and it's moving faster than the speed of light. And we've been trying to figure out how to, why it's doing this. And
they took some x-rays.
Yeah, look like x-ray plates.
Of it contracting and expanding.
Right. And then the doctor was like, well, Liz and I will go look at the scene and where it landed. Brigadier, put your men on ready. And
they interview the wife, Mrs. Wallace.
Wallace, yeah. Oh, and he says, Dr. Tyler, why don't you, do the plate? So they go interview the wife, and she's like, well, he's been gone all day, but that's not unusual.
Dr. Tyler, developing the plate, seemed to upset the Brigadier, because the doctor said, you'll find everything you need here, and then the Brigadier was like, this is a top secret organization.
It's actually your facility. Why are you make yourself at home?
I made some reference that I didn't understand.
Oh. Liberty Hall.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Oh. Crap, I've got my phone on me. I shouldn't have my phone on me. Where's your phone? Is it on you?
Yeah.
No. Mine should be plugged in. if I go... Right, exactly. I forgot. If I go use the restroom, I'll plug my phone in. But the whole Liberty Hall thing. Here, let me at least turn mine off.
We'll look up Liberty Hall while you're turning it off.
No.
We'll never know.
We'll know later. We'll look it up later.
But the viewers won't.
They can look it up on the... If
they don't have access to...
If they're watching us, they have access to the internet. Oh my gosh.
Some reference was made to which we don't understand.
Yeah, the Liberty Hall thing. Alright.
So they go, and they interview Mrs. Wallace in the scene of the crime where Mr. Wallace disappeared. And they say, well, where's your husband? Have you seen him? She said, no, that's quite normal though. He goes off and I won't see him until night. And I could look for him if you'd like me to.
Yeah, and apparently the entirety of this serial, all 4 episodes, takes place in a single day.
Yeah. Well, a single Earth day. Cosmic...
Yeah, but it all takes place in a single Earth day.
Black hole time ceases to exist so-and-so.
Okay. So the doctor and Joe get back from examining where the thing fell, and the doctor's got a red lit, looks like the sonic screwdriver. He thinks it's sounding like a Geiger counter. He thinks it's not the sonic screwdriver, but it kind of looks like it.
It looked different. You see,
no, Blu-ray.
It's very simple. It did not look like this here.
Well, it could have a different head on it.
It had a different body. It was a wide silver handle with a golden neck.
Right, and
red
it might have been something else. But either way, he's checking the radiation with the Geiger counter, and doing all that, and the doctor gets the understanding that this is something problematic and big and important. So they go back. All this happens fairly quickly, actually. The first episode especially seemed a lot longer than a normal episode, even though it wasn't.
See, you say that. I thought it was really, fast-paced. And
it was very fast-paced. There was a lot going on.
It ended quicker than I thought it would. Time's relative.
Exactly.
You probably were absorbing it better than I was. I just blew through it real quick.
Okay, so the doctor and Joe go back to the base. So when Dr. Travis was looking at the plate, the X-ray that he got from the battery that had gone up into space, it looks like Alice.
Mm-hmm. That's Alice's face in the X-ray light beam
thing, and then a thing comes out of the battery deal.
How do you think they did that camera effect with the light substance coming out of the battery?
Well, it's got to be double exposure on the film.
Double exposure.
Yeah,
it's really cool looking.
It is. They did so much with so little back in the day.
They had to be so creative to create these effects.
Right. Hence the intro. Ooh,
yeah.
So anyway, Dr. Travis gets absorbed and sent to where Alice was.
Mm-hmm.
Was sent. The doctor and then the brigadier shows up and goes, "Where's Dr. Travis? Where's Dr. Travis?" And they start looking for him.
Look, this is a secure compound.
And they can't find him.
He's just wandering around somewhere.
Right. And then the doctor and Joe show up and Bessie back from checking out the site, and they see this big creature, monster, blobby, radioactive thing.
Eyeballs.
Yeah. Well, no, not that. But it's just then it.
Oh, the light thing.
Yeah.
The double exposure.
They jump out of Bessie and they run, and
comes out of the drain.
Bessie. Yeah.
Yeah. Flash of light absorbs Bessie.
And then the doctor and Joe go into Unit HQ headquarters, and they tell the brigadier what happened, that Bessie's gone, and the brigadier's like, "What? What do you mean, what?"
Mm-hmm. They couldn't find Alice.
Yeah.
He looks at the exposure that Dr. Tyler was
And there's Alice, yeah, so
Alice.
stop looking for him. Let's see.
He's been beamed up. And then we flash over to the Time Lords, right?
Yeah, then we flash over to the Time Lords, and this is the first time we've seen the Time Lords properly. Like more than just the little bit at the end of the War Games, because at the end of the War Games there was just a few of them.
There's like a disembodied voices. And,
right. There was a little more than that.
Sneak peeks,
But this is the first time we really get to see a good bit more of them. They've got a giant control room.
Their consoles and their outfits and their weird circled color paper that they're...
Yeah. Now this is very, very... It's almost 60s-esque, carryover from the 60s and the 70s. The true, long-lasting visuals of the Time Lord come with Tom Baker's era.
So they get a redesign.
Fourth Doctor. They get a bit of a redesign. And this one, they're in black and silver.
Yeah.
Look like Steelers fans.
I think it was a cool design.
No, Raiders fans.
Yeah.
But starting with Tom Baker, they start having these giant headdress things and all that, and it's a lot more elaborate. And this one, they look a bit more functional.
They had pauldrons that come down like court robes.
Giant shoulder pads. Yeah, they look like judges.
Yeah.
Which kind of they are. So anyway, switches over to them. They're talking about how the universe is being drained of its energy. They're pumping all this energy is being drained away. All this time and cosmic energy, and they're pumping energy into it, trying to stop the drain so the universe won't collapse. And they're like, okay, the Doctor's our only hope. We've sent him on this mission because every other Time Lord in the universe busy dealing with this, and I guess the Doctor's the only one they trust who's run off.
Yes.
Because others like the Ronnie and the Master have run off, but they don't trust them,
Right.
So. But we'll help him.
Meddling monk.
Yeah, meddling monk.
Still stranded somewhere.
But we'll help the Doctor by sending him the previous versions of himself. So,
which breaks the first law of time travel.
Exactly. Don't cross your time
streams.
Which the Doctor does several more times.
We played that game in high school.
Don't cross the time
streams.
Okay. Ghostbusters. All right. I'll stick with that reference. Okay. Anyway, so the Doctor.
Why is that the first law of time travel, that you're not supposed to cross time streams with previous
Because the ripple effects are infinite.
So you think this?
Okay, picture you and I. We're here right now doing something.
Yes.
We could decide to stop doing this, and we could decide to go out and get some dinner.
Yes.
If we decide that then the pathway diverges. What we're doing now and what we could be doing is different.
Yes.
Well, that's two paths. Picture a Time Lord crossing his own time path.
Yes.
Okay, that's not just a 1-2 divergence. That's like a giant ass ripple effect of exponential proportions. So where, well, this could have happened this way, and this way, and all these different effects could happen, and it could change the past, and it could change the future as well as the present, and it's just very dangerous.
Well, there's still fixed points in time.
Only when the plot wants them to be.
And there's only one ripple, because Hartnell and Troughton were dropped off supposedly right where they were picked up. So their timelines didn't have ripples, just Pertwee's timeline had a ripple where they're dropped off at.
It's established later that when you cross your own time stream, your older versions of yourself do not remember. Because they can't remember, because it's out of their time stream. And this is the way to explain how they don't know what's going to happen, or because they remember it from when it did happen. It's a good plot device, it's a good explanation, and it works fairly well.
What if a Time Lord was to die during a stream cross?
That is one of the theoretical problems with it. And that's brought up in the Two Doctors. What happens...
Two Doctors?
Yeah, the Two Doctors. We'll get to that later.
I don't know what that is.
It's a serial with the Second Doctor and the Sixth Doctor.
Oh.
Set in Barcelona.
Still played by Troughton?
Yeah, still played by Troughton. In the mid-80s.
Do they explain his aging?
Okay.
Because surely he doesn't look the same.
Correct. Okay. When the same actors play the same Doctor much later, and it's always been played with the same Doctor pretty much. I think I mentioned this previously, except for tiny little clips of somebody being a body double. Mostly in the 50th, in the name of the Doctor and the day of the Doctor. With the exception of those, it's always played with the same actor. But in general, you have to understand that the actor has aged, but it's completely ignored.
They just ignore it.
They just ignore it. You just ignore the actor has aged.
Suspension of disbelief.
Right. You're just glad to have that individual still alive and able to play that Doctor like Troughton does in the Two Doctors, and you just go, great, okay, cool, I'm cool with it, just don't worry about it.
Cool.
Okay, so, wait, where were we in the plot?
The Time Lords, we were flashing.
Yeah, the Time Lords.
The energy drain.
Right, they do the energy to get the Second Doctor to come and help the Third Doctor. They're trying to get the First Doctor in, but they can't because he's stuck in the Time Eddy. And then the Second Doctor shows up.
Did I ask what a Time Eddy is yet?
No.
What is a Time Eddy?
We don't know.
It never comes up again?
No.
So he's stuck in time.
Yeah, essentially.
I think that means they ran out of energy to transport. They're talking about it takes a colossal amount of energy to cross streams.
Correct.
And they're already pumping so much energy.
They're just trying it with the Doctor. Okay, so Troughton shows up, the Second Doctor, and there's a little bit of bickering between the Doctors. They try to explain it to Jo, because she doesn't understand. But in the meantime, Benton's there, Sergeant Benton, and Benton's like, wait, that's the way he, pointing at the Third Doctor, he used to look when we first met him, was him. And they explain it to everybody. Everybody's like, what?
Corporal Benton.
Well, it used to be Corporal, now it's
Sergeant.
And it used to be Colonel, but now, of course, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. So the third Doctor decides to run out to meet the creature because he figures the creature's coming for him. So he's going to go out and meet it and jump over to the other side.
Would you also consider Dr. Tyler a companion?
No, he's only in there for the one serial.
Does he travel in the TARDIS?
He does, but he does not fill the companion slot. There are several others who already do that, and he's only in there for the single serial.
Mr. Allis. So there's more than one qualification than traveling in the TARDIS.
Well, yes.
What about Katarina?
They have to be there specifically to help the Doctor, which the Brigadier, Joe, and Sergeant Benton were, which Allis and Dr. Tyler were not. They were there for other reasons.
What about Katarina? She didn't really help the Doctor, but she did travel in the TARDIS, but more so as a passenger.
She was there to help the Doctor. In fact, she gave up her life to save the Doctor.
Yeah.
She sacrificed herself, and she was the only one in the companion slot at the time besides Stephen. Mm-hmm. Stephen was also there. All right, hold on. Save this for... Okay. Alright, so the Doctor runs out, tells Joe to stay in. Joe does not... Yeah. Joe doesn't want to stay in the TARDIS. They run out, they meet the antimatter thing, and they get sent off to the black hole. That's where the beam's coming from.
Did you talk about Hartnell showing up? Connection.
Hartnell shows up. Okay, so you got
off the TARDIS force field.
Yeah, he tells them that. So you have
use your brains.
Right. So you have the third Doctor and the second Doctor, Pertwee and Troughton, and Hartnell shows up on the monitor and says, "Pertwee, Troughton, Hartnell." Yep. Hartnell shows up on the monitor and says, "Hey, I'm stuck in a time eddy. I can't help but shut off your brains. Don't worry, it's in the frame." All right. He says, do this. Use your brains. I'll help you. Alright. So the end of episode 1, Pertwee runs out, the third Doctor, to be transferred along the beam into the black hole by the antimatter monster. But Joe follows him, and she gets transferred there with him. So they end up in a rock quarry, where all Doctor Who episodes eventually end up. And they're in this world, and the Doctor and Joe wake up, got a little knocked out by the transfer. In the meantime, the second Doctor and Benton are inside the TARDIS. They go out, and the antimatter monster seems to have calmed down. And at the same time, the unit headquarters seems to be being surrounded on all sides by these weird bubble monsters. They look really weird, red and bubbly with these weird eye things in the middle that move around. And they are coming towards Unit HQ, and they shoot off on their kind of a claw-like hand energy that explodes. Let's see. So Unit HQ is under attack, under siege from all sides. The Brigadier and everybody, they're trying to hold everything off. They end up in the TARDIS. The Brigadier's like, it's bigger on the inside. Hey.
All done with the plot?
Well, I'm on episode 2 now.
Just 2?
How far do you want me to be?
I thought you would be wrapped up in.
Like I said, a lot of stuff happens in this
Lots
one.
of stuff happens.
Okay, so we're going to need to bind that at some point, because...
That's why I want to make a digital copy and just have like a tablet where I could transcribe it too.
Yeah, but then you would. But could you take notes on that during the show?
Yeah. Just like any Word document on a tablet.
Well, yeah, but you'd have to. Okay.
They even have tablets where you have like the stylus pencil, and you can handwrite notes, and then it auto reads it into text. It's really cool.
Feel free to do that anytime you want.
Yeah, I've been looking into tablets. I think
You're on your like
get one.
fourth pad there.
Yeah, it'll save paper, saving the environment. It'll be a lot easier to look up notes because you can like search by key phrases and like.
All right. So the doctor and and Benton are trying to work out this device to keep the antimatter monster placated.
Couldn't find a television set.
Yeah, I couldn't find the television
Feed
set.
it nonsense.
Right. In the meantime, they're trying to do that. The brigadier is reporting to Geneva, and he's like, okay. And the brigadier shows up and looks at the doctor, and he's like, what the hell? And the doctor's like, yeah, it says vodka, happy water for fun people. That's a saint's helmet.
Why is it blue?
That's a sky. The background is a sky.
It should be gold.
It is really, really old and faded, sir.
It used to be gold?
Yes, the helmet used to be gold.
Oh.
But it's very faded.
I'll say.
Okay, so... Alright, so in the real world, the second doctor is working with the brigadier and Sergeant Benton, and the brigadier's like, what happened? How are you here? You look like you used to look, and trying to figure that out.
Have you been snacking? You got a ton of snacks on your desk.
Those are bags of peanuts.
Why is
Lissa bought me 3 bags of peanuts, and I have them there so I don't forget to eat them. Yeah.
It's a lot of peanuts.
It is a lot of peanuts.
Are you allowed to eat peanuts on keto?
Up to a point, because you hit the carb point at a certain point. But I can eat about a third of a bag or half a bag would be fine.
That's a lot.
Well, I gotta shell them, so they take up a lot more space than it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
you can have like peanut butter on keto.
There's a lot of sugar in peanut butter.
Oh, they put sugar in peanut butter?
A lot of sugar.
Oh.
I mean, today I had a couple of cheese sticks, with the fried. I had one of Melissa's cookies, and I had an old fashioned, which has sugar in it. So I'm pretty much
you're
right at the limit. Yeah, I usually don't eat any of that, but today I did.
How are we going to eat jelly bellies when we get to the 4th Doctor? That's not on keto.
Jelly babies.
Jelly babies.
We'll see. All right.
I'm going to bring some jelly babies for the 4th Doctor's premiere. We'll play a game.
I don't know if they're in the Robot, which is the first serial of the 4th Doctor.
I'm still going to bring jelly babies. We'll play a game.
Okay. So if you don't know, in this particular serial, the Jelly Babies show up for the first time.
The first time.
The very
With
first
Troughton.
time. And, with Troughton showing them up. But Tom Baker takes them and runs with Jelly Babies throughout his entire show.
A Time Lord snack? What is that?
I think they're basically gummy bears.
What's the origin of Jelly Babies? Why is it a
I
Time
don't know,
Lord
but they're
thing
basically gummy bears.
that transcends regenerations? Because Troughton also likes them.
Well, we didn't see them during his run in the show, but this is the first time I believe that we see them at all.
We see him after Baker, the 4th Doctor?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So it must be like a just general
Right, I think we
Time
see
Lord
them
thing.
once or twice in the 5th, 6th, and maybe even 7th Doctors.
Not after the 7th.
No.
Okay.
Not to the best of my knowledge after the 7th. They're very much a 20th century Doctor Who thing.
What's the 21st century Doctor Who thing? Is there a thing?
21st century Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things. Most of them are continuations from the 20th century, like the TARDIS and the sonic screwdriver and stuff like that.
But no snacks, no jelly babies, delicacies, like Star Wars and blue milk.
I never saw that one.
No, that's in the very first one, A New Hope. They're drinking blue milk, and it becomes a thing. Space milk.
Trying to remember. All right. Stop distracting. All right. So
It's on topic. It's on topic.
the second Doctor is trying to set up this thing to calm the antimatter beast, but he gets hauled away by the Brigadier. So he's got to give some sort of video report, and he tells Sergeant Benton to just zap it a little bit. And if it gets uppity, zap it a lot. And Sergeant Benton does that. I think it's really uppity, and takes away part of the wall in Unit HQ and a computer and a few other items.
Coat rack,
yeah. Water cooler, a computer.
The whole desk with the car battery.
Yeah. And so eventually, Benton's calling for the Doctor, and he and the Brigadier and Sergeant Benton run into the TARDIS, where they close the doors, turn on the force field, and they're stuck.
You assume they didn't really round the corner yet, and they hear him calling. And
A little further than that. You hear steps for a while.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the third Doctor, and Joe are walking around and figuring out that all the stuff that got zapped from Earth are there in the gravel pit
showing up.
Right, in the black hole antimatter world. Yeah, I think you dropped your pen. Okay. And eventually they find Bessie. And so then they get in the car and they start driving. And then you see them take off, and then Ollis kind of peeks up his head. He's like,
He's been hiding for a few minutes.
He's been hiding.
From the alien monsters.
You also see a few of the alien monsters too. But they get out of the car, and when they find Dr. Travis, and they're talking with Dr. Travis, and then the alien monsters show up and make all these explosions happen all around them, and so they're captured because they give up. Yeah. And then they're being taken to this giant palace there in the antimatter world. Okay, so they get taken to the palace. Oh, is this
the palace
episode
looks like
2?
a caramel bubbly thing.
Are we at the end of episode 2?
Let's see here. I think the very end is when they meet Omega for the first time.
No. The very end is just before they meet Omega, when Unit Headquarters gets transferred into the black hole.
That's the end of episode 3, I thought.
At the end of episode 3?
I think the end of episode 2 is when the explosions happens all around.
Oh, okay. So, end of episode 2. Alright, so episode 3, they get taken to the giant palace, which looks really weird and really Wonka-ish and bubbly. And they're in there.
Yeah, like caramelization, bubbly, yeah.
So they're in there, and these things are hurting them in a specific direction. And we meet Omega. And Omega's
They're warbling at him.
Warbling, yeah. Omega's about 6'4". I mean, Pertwee's kind of tall, but this guy towers over him like maybe a couple inches.
Headdress?
Well, no. The headdress makes him about 6'9", because it's a giant ass headdress thing. He's got a whole mask on and everything.
Does it bother you when they say Omega instead of Omega?
No.
Because to me, Omega is a very cool sounding word. And when you say Omega, it just ruins the word. It makes it sound very less cool.
Well, it's our ears, but they're British. They're hearing what we're hearing with Omega.
No, it's the same ears.
Same.
You're hearing the
Right. But they're used to different pronunciations.
Omega sounds a lot cooler than Omega.
Well, to them, Omega would probably sound cooler.
Yeah.
They made the show. We didn't make the show.
It rhymes with me. Mega.
Yeah,
They're still the same tonal pitches and.
We've talked about this. How over time the vowels move in your mouth.
Everyone sings in an American accent. Why is that?
I don't think everyone sings in American.
Most people sing it.
We've literally talked
because
on this
the
podcast.
aristocrats purposely talked in a tone because they thought it made them sound superior, and then all the peasants picked up the aristocratic slang, and then they all started talking in their heads.
We've literally talked on this podcast how the vowels over time move within the mouth over centuries.
The rich people did that on purpose, though. They'd speak in their head voice because they thought it made them sound sophisticated. And then
some people would do things like that.
And then became a thing that the whole country picked up.
Right. But once again, it rotates in the mouth, and that may be why, but it does. That's why
it's not natural.
New Englanders say aunt instead of aunt.
This is not natural. This is natural. Natural. Not natural.
For some people, that's natural.
Omega.
Okay, for some people, that's natural. Okay, so anyway. So the third episode. Okay. In the third episode, the Doctor is in the TARDIS. The second Doctor's in the TARDIS. The third Doctor, the first Doctor shows up on the monitor, tells him to let down the force fields. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, the third Doctor is inside the palace, inside the antimatter world, inside the black hole. What are you doing?
I wonder if this would make a difference.
What? We're gonna mess with this stuff later.
I just said it right here.
No, we're gonna mess with
I
this
just
stuff.
said it right here.
We're gonna mess with this stuff later.
We'll mess with it later.
What? Put that.
I said it right there. Do the recap thing. Do the recap thing.
Okay. Alright, so the third Doctor meets Omega. Third Doctor meets Omega. And Omega happens to be a Time Lord who helped give the Time Lords, or basically gave the Time Lords, the power of time travel by harnessing the power of a black hole. Or more accurately, by creating a supernova that then created the black hole and harnessing that power. So he is a hero among the Time Lords, and that actually works. Alright, so he's a hero among the Time Lords.
You're as surprised
as I am. He's revered by them as a hero, but he, apparently when he did this thing, they thought he perished in the explosion, but instead he survived, has been imprisoned in this antimatter black hole world of his own creation by his own will for the last several thousand years. He's played by a great actor. Can't remember the guy's name. Peter Thomas or something. What was the guy's name?
It is Stephen Thorne, who's a recurring.
I was close. Stephen Thorne, who was in 8 episodes of Doctor Who from 71 to 76. So we haven't seen the last of them. Great voice. Love his voice.
Love his voice acting. So, dude, okay. His inflections, his emotions, you feel the pure agony of his existence.
And the grandioseness of his will.
His force of will, his pride, his arrogance, his self-control, and his personal struggle. You feel it's very conveyable.
Yeah, it is. So, what? No. What? No. You want every episode to be 2 hours, don't you?
No. I'm letting you cover the plot. And I'm keeping...
you are just.
No. This is so I don't distract you. You know I get
distracting.
Bored easily.
Yeah.
I'm keeping myself occupied so you can
you
plot recap.
Take that stuff out of the camera. All right.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so anyway, Omega wants revenge on the Time Lords and the entire universe for trapping him where he is. And the problem is he's got this singularity, and the singularity allows him to create the world he's in just due to the sheer force of his will. The problem is the singularity also traps him there. He can't leave because his will is controlling the singularity. I see that. And he can't stay. Wait, you just put one up. Never mind. Alright. He's trapped there because his will controls the singularity. Once his will leaves, the singularity will collapse. But if he stays, basically he's caught in the trap of his own making. But he's trying to get the Doctor and everybody to, basically the Doctor, to take over control of the world and the singularity so he can escape and get back into our universe. You gotta do the bottom part, I guess.
Do you think the sound reverberates from there?
Yeah, I don't know. Alright, so...
Trying to be conservative.
Okay, so in the meantime, the second Doctor goes, okay, we're gonna lower the force field, and not only does the TARDIS get transported into the black hole, but so does the entire unit headquarters. Like the entire building disappears, gets transported to the black hole, up the beam of light. When it does, they're all transported there. The Brigadier can't believe there's nothing in outside except sand and dirt, because they're in a quarry like every other Doctor Who episode. And they go outside. Benton and the second Doctor get captured, and the Brigadier ends up meeting Ollis ends up meeting Ollis. The Sergeant Benton and the second Doctor get taken into the palace by the weird bubbly things.
They have crab hands.
Crab hands, yeah. That shoot laser beams.
You ever watched the second Power Ranger movie with Ivan Ooze? And how
no.
You see like the electric current travel through the arms. Kind of does that with their crab claws. It goes and then.
Alright. So inside the palace.
Rita Repulsa. Not in the Power Rangers.
No.
They're great.
No, I was already too old by the time they came around.
Not too old for Power Rangers.
I will disagree.
Go Power Rangers. And they have that cool metal good.
Yeah,
it's great.
A lot of these episodes are probably mixed up and muddled up, alright? What we're talking about.
What's mixed?
3 Doctors, the episodes. I don't think our plot point distinctions are all. Wait, why is my phone coming on? Alright. I think some of it's mixed up.
I have them all written down here. What's the point of contention? Do you need...
No. I'm just saying I think some of the things I said may have been in other episodes slightly than what I've said. Okay, so anyway, Benton and the second Doctor show up in the throne room right as the Doctor's convincing Omega that they really, really should be friends. And Omega's like, wait, is this another Time Lord? How could anyone else have shown up? And then he realizes not only is it a Time Lord, it's the same Time Lord, the 2 Doctors. And the second Doctor prattles on as he does the entire serial about a stupid recorder. Okay.
Very important.
It becomes important later.
We'll lose track of how many times the recorder is brought up.
Oh my gosh. So, then Omega throws them all into a cell, which has no doors. But then, this came up earlier, where the two doctors were there, and they decided to collaborate in their minds, and they do contact, and there's a telepathic link, which we have not seen before this explicitly, and they transfer information between the two of them.
You've seen the Doctor's niece show telepathic
abilities with the sensorites,
So
but we've not seen anything quite like this.
They match information and
correct. And in this case, you do contact because Joe Grant.
See Dragon Ball Z where they link up. And
I haven't seen any Dragon Ball Z. Alright, so Joe Grant actually, of all people, suggests to them to, if it's Omega's will holding this entire world together, well, he's one Time Lord. The two of you as Time Lords should be able to, create a door, whereas his will is creating the entire world. So they do that, and they create a door, and they get out of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
And they get out of the cell, and they all run out, and the doctors are like, well, you gotta do what we tell you when we tell you to do it. So they convince Omega, they all run into the TARDIS. Everybody manages to get back to the TARDIS by hook or by crook. Most of them run away. The doctors...
So, they conjure the door. Pertwee and Troughton head to the throne room to confront Omega.
Right.
Joe, Alice, and Benton all make a break for it. They're running through the corridors. They're trying to find the escape tunnel.
Right.
They find the door. They're being pursued by the weird amalgamations.
No, not Alice. Dr. Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler, Joe, and Benton. Alice is with the Brigadier.
Right.
They meet up after the... Did you talk about HQ headquarters?
Yeah. And the Brigadier and Alice are trying to get in.
They're rushing the door.
Right. And Benton and Dr. Tyler and Joe are trying to get out. And they have to go, oh, come with us, run. And they all run away.
They're pulling the door open while they're pushing the door open.
Right.
So make a break for it.
They all run away and they find Bessie. And they take Bessie back to unit headquarters.
She was like, where are we going? And he goes, the unit HQ. And
it's goes, closer than you think.
Closer than you think.
Right, because it got taken over.
Meanwhile,
the two doctors,
Troughton and Pertwee, they confront Omega in the throne room, and you have this sort of hubris moment of Pertwee. He's kind of on this high where he just.
That's the end of episode 3.
Yeah.
When the end of episode 2 is when the headquarters gets moved.
Yes.
Yeah. You thought it was episode 3. That's the end of episode 2. The end of episode 3 is the will of Omega mentally fighting the Third Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but you thought the headquarters moving was the end of episode 3. That's the end of episode 2.
I did. I said episode 2.
No. You said episode 3 earlier.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
So they confront Omega in the throne room. The two doctors, Pertwee and Troughton.
And Pertwee...
There's this
telepathic link
about... Did you get that? Pertwee's kind of... There's this hubris moment where he's sort of on this... He's confident because he just summoned the door and he's figuring out this whole...
We'll fight you.
Force of will. And he says, we'll, you and I will... Troughton and I will end you if we have to. And then he goes, you really want that? You really want to go there? You'll face the dark side of my mind.
Right.
And you see Omega and Troughton.
Right. And there's about a
mental combat.
Right. There's about a 3-minute fight sequence represented by Troughton and some weird dark-looking thing, which is the dark side of Omega's mind fighting it out. Yeah. Okay.
So meanwhile,
it wasn't the end of episode 3.
They're doing some Venusian kung fuery.
Yeah.
I don't know. you've been talking about. I've just been putting sound film up.
Okay, so okay, so that's the end of episode 3. Okay, so the doctors.
The end of episode 3 is when he has him in the mental chokehold,
right?
And then in the real life, Pertwee is seizing out because he's being mentally bested by Omega, and there's this 3-minute cutscene of them having this metaphysical combat
wrestling match.
Yeah, but in real life, you have this sense that it happened in an instant because Pertwee is
well, and Troughton's not helping him.
Troughton, yeah, Troughton is what's the word? he's trying to I wouldn't say beg, but
right. He says, well, he butts in finally and gets him to.
Troughton is advocating to Omega to spare Pertwee because he's his only chance of
freedom.
Yeah, he needs them. That's why he summoned him there to not, mentally destroy him in this mental combat,
right.
which is a cool moment because you finally see someone who is, physically, mentally, willpower-wise, just
better
superior than the Doctor. Yeah, this ultimate Time Lord.
Well, ultimate Omega at the end,
which is a very cool villain. I thought Omega was a really cool villain. Not only because he's portrayed by Stephen Thorne, this guy who's just has great vocals. He's doing this. The whole time he's behind this weird mask, but so he's just verbally acting. You hear his voice, and it's conveying a lot of emotion.
In Doctor Who,
that's the end of episode 3.
Right. In Doctor Who, there is Rassilon, Omega, and the other one. And they literally refer to them as Rassilon, Omega, and the other one. It's hinted later on that the Doctor is the other one.
Oh.
But it's never confirmed to the best of my knowledge.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
does Omega ever come back as a recurring villain?
No.
Is he referenced?
He never comes back. I really wish he would. And
such a cool villain.
And the when the Time Lords go back to the first Doctor, and it shows Hartnell, once again directly contradicting the modern crap of the show that we have yet to see if it's going to be confirmed or not. Because series 13 hasn't started. Alright. Forget Timeless Child crap for now. Okay, so episode 4.
Last episode. Very short serial for such a
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
and a momentous occasion. So the Doctors get away. They eventually run back to the TARDIS. They find everyone else there. They all gather in Unit HQ, and the Brigadier and them are like, wait, the TARDIS is locked within trying to get in. Well, the Doctors are banging on the door, and then they get in and they all go in the TARDIS.
Before they make a break for it, don't they have the whole conversation with Omega and the mask thing? Does that happen?
Not yet.
Because I thought that happened.
Not
then
yet.
they run and then they come back with the recorder.
They may have, yeah.
Yeah, that's how they make the...
So they look in the mask. They're like, okay, so we can't help you.
The end of episode 3 is Omega mentally besting Troughton, the third Doctor. Pertwee, and then Troughton stops him saying, remember you need us for your freedom. And then Omega, he has a short temper, not the best self-control because he's just, in his world, he's, the center of his universe. He's all high and mighty. And he goes, oh yeah, I want to get free of this place. That's why I called you here. You're going to take my place. You need to hold this world together because this world is only held together by my willpower.
But you're going to need a mask because this mask protects your body from...
It's a lot like...
the accelerated particles.
The mind rubber.
Yeah,
Where
it's a
he
lot like the
wants
mind road. Yeah.
them to take his place so he can leave.
And I mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
just
what
like the
he
mind
said.
robber. The person who's keeping the world together wants the doctor to take their place so they can leave. But it turns out in this case that over the thousands of years, the accelerated particles have already worn away at Omega's body.
Did you talk about the singularity?
Briefly. Not at all.
As a, what do you call it?
Hold on. So,
Degradation effect on the...
right. So, Omega does not exist in a physical form. He only exists as a will because he believes he exists. So his body doesn't exist any longer. And the whole world he's in only exists because of his will. So it is literally his will and nothing else that is keeping everything going.
It's
Creepy and cool.
metaphysical, yeah. So he says, we're at the point of singularity in this black hole of antimatter. It has a degrading effect on the physical bodies. It happens over a long period of time. I've been here for thousands of years. That's why I constructed this mask to shield me. If you're to take my place, you need to don this mask, so remove it.
And they start to remove it, but there's nothing there.
There's nothing. He has no physical form. He's this entity
He's
of...
incorporeal.
Yeah. So they break this to him because he himself is not aware that his physical body no longer exists, that he's only held there as a being of his own willpower. And he looks in the mirror and he takes off his mask and
there's nothing.
There's nothing. And he lets out this cry of agony and he's just...
And that's when the doctors run away.
They make a break for it.
Right.
And he's Omega sets upon this rage and he's like, if I no
Destruction.
longer exist, then you will have nothing to exist. I'm going to destroy your universe with my will.
So the doctors run off. They manage to catch up with everyone else in
Very
the unit headquarters, which is now in the antimatter black hole world. They all run into the TARDIS. The doctors are like, well, what are we going to do? The first doctor shows up, says, hey, let's contact minds and figure out what we want to do.
Yeah.
And they do that, and they go, okay, this is risky, but we have to try it. We're going to we're going to take the force field generator, and we're going to offer it to them. And they look in the force field generator. They realize that the stupid second doctor's recorder is in there.
Mm-hmm.
Not the second doctor's stupid, but his recorder. And
that's why earlier, Troughton was asking Omega to conjure him. Was that episode 3 or episode 4?
Yeah, it was episode 3 where he's asking to conjure up a recorder.
Conjure me a recorder. I need my recorder to think. And then Omega's upset and it's like, you dare ask me for a pipe? And then even Pertwee gets upset with Troughton. He's like, what are you doing? And Troughton,
I'm testing his limits. Yeah.
Testing his limits, his self-control, his patience. He doesn't have much of it. He's, this game of chess in his mind, and he's playing the fool, but really he's still the doctor. Troughton is, even though he's a much more goofy, fun-loving version of the doctor, to where even Pertwee doesn't, understand his angle, but Pertwee he's playing up the,
playing up the fool, yeah. All right, so
even Omega goes, "Are you two really of the same intelligence?"
He does. Episode 4, he does. So they realize that the recorder is stuck in the force field inside of the TARDIS, and while everyone else was transported and given the ability to exist in both matter and antimatter at the same time, the recorder was not. Even though the whole TARDIS was moved, the recorder was inside, so it is still just matter. So if it touches the antimatter, it'll all explode. So they ask Omega for the ability to transfer the TARDIS from Unit HQ to his palace. He grants them that. They go to the palace, And they say, okay, we will stay with you forever if you promise to return all of our friends home and leave their universe alone, which he does. And so Dr. Tyler, Mr. Hollis, Sergeant Benton, Miss Joe, and then Brigadier all leave via the singularity column of smoke back to our world. And then the doctors are like, okay, we have a way for you to find your freedom. Here it is in this little box with a recorder sticking out of it with these little different things. And Omega's like, what is this? I'm not amused.
Toyish trinket.
Yeah, toyish trinkets and whatnot. And
they go, just take it. Just grab onto it. Just
and
take it.
And they try to contact and force him to take it. He's like, commands? I give commands here. He knocks it out of their hands. The matter hits the antimatter, and they're like, run! They go into the TARDIS. They get the heck out of there. The entire black hole explodes. Omega dies, and the doctors end up back in Unit HQ after everything is returned to Earth because the black hole in the antimatter world no longer exists, which is why we haven't seen Omega since. He is destroyed into smithereens. The first Doctor says his farewells. The second Doctor says his farewells.
Even Hartnell shows up on the monitor.
Yeah. He says the first Doctor says his farewells. The second Doctor says his farewells. Dr. Tyler says his farewells. Alice.
They all recorporealize in the
where they're supposed to be.
The place where they left off. So the doctors, they rematerialize in the TARDIS. Everyone else in the lab where they left. Alice shows back up in the field where the weather balloon was, where he first disappeared. Mm-hmm. And he's confronted by his wife. I've been looking for you. Where have you been?
Everyone's been looking for you. And he says, you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Believe me if I told you. Mm. Which is the same thing Troughton told to the Brigadier when he asked who Hartnell was on the monitor.
Exactly. And everything's good, and that's the end of the serial. Awesome. And unfortunately, this is the last that we ever see of Hartnell. The first Doctor does come back, but he's played by different actors. Hartnell dies not that long thereafter. And thus far, all the Doctors have died in order. First, second, third.
I don't know. Pertwee passed away.
Mm-hmm. He passed away. The fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, just had his 87th birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. Still alive. Fourth onward. All still alive. 87.
Troughton was younger than Pertwee, so it's weird that...
Just slightly, yes.
That's
one of the few times that the actor for the Doctor has gotten older rather than younger. The other major one would be from Matt Smith to Capaldi. Smith is the one with the green sonic screwdriver right there. And Capaldi is not on that poster.
Oh, the War Doctor?
No, Capaldi. The 12th Doctor.
Oh?
Smith, the War Doctor, Capaldi... Sorry, Smith's there. The War Doctor, Capaldi, and Whitaker are not on there.
Oh.
It's an older poster.
Gotcha.
I need to get a newer poster. Alright, what are your questions?
So many.
Good.
We talked about Pertwee's sonic screwdriver looking different and whether or not he knew. Did we talk about the nature of the Time Lords and their energy requirements to time travel, and that they... Just the nature of how their time travel endeavors came into existence with them sending Omega as Time Lord on this adventure into.
Yeah, I discussed it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really much come up again.
It doesn't come up.
No, excepting for the fact that in the modern series, like, the TARDIS is shown to have a black hole at the center of it as its
TARDIS?
power source. Yeah, each TARDIS apparently has a black hole at the center of it as its power source, which kind of relates to and kind of contradicts this serial.
Seems kind of contradictory.
But also relates to, because it was a black hole, again, the power source.
Yes.
But not one for all of them. Apparently each TARDIS needs one. Or has one.
That was the source of all Time Lords' power, or their energy.
Somehow lassoing the black hole into it, yeah.
Yeah. And then the black hole was destroyed, and it looked like it got replaced with just a regular galaxy. Supernova that started beaming power to the Time Lords' location again. And apparently the Time Lords act as these universal peacekeepers who protect and look after other entities in the universe. Yeah.
They're represented here a lot more benevolently than they are in future stuff. In future stuff, they are nowhere near as benevolent as they are represented here.
They said that they protect people in this serial, but that's not a recurring theme. Do you think they had some policy shifts?
No, it's kind of, but it's kind of not. I mean, they do protect people, but it's mostly the renegades, the rogues, like the Doctor. Overarchingly, generally speaking, they fight evil, but they don't necessarily protect specific races. But they do fight evil, like the Daleks.
There is I guess there would be an argument to be made for the Time Lords after their own self-preservation. That's why they're protecting the universe. They're pumping energy into it to counteract the effects of the energy drain, because, they're after their own self-preservation, which means protecting the universe that they exist in with other entities. So maybe it's more of an ego thing. They're letting themselves come across as these benevolent people when really they're just.
Well, in this one, it's a bit vague. It gets more specific later on, but it never seems quite as benevolent as it does here. Excepting particular rogue Time Lords like the Doctor.
We also talked about the Time Lords crossing streams with previous regenerations and the ripple effects and First Law of Time. Did we talk about the mental contact and the first sort of? There's this one point where Hartnell comes up on the monitor when Pertwee and Troughton are arguing and bickering and being prideful, and then Hartnell is like the elder of the three, even though it's the same person.
Both in time in the show in terms of him being the first, and the actor in terms of age.
Yeah, he's the eldest, and then even Troughton says, "I very much respect his opinion, even though he is him." It's kind of like they're the same but different. They're separate people, and he respects the opinion of his previous self.
Okay. Are you the same as you were 10 years ago?
No, that's exactly my next point was do you think that the previous you, the past you, would approve of future you? Because I think past Holden would be very much disappointed in where I am now.
But no, people change. I mean, that's what I hate. I hate things like you love the Muppets, right?
Yeah.
But I hate the Muppet Babies. I hate the idea that the crush that little bitty Miss Piggy Baby had on little bitty Kermit Baby is the exact same she's going to have when she's older. I hate the fact that the characters never change. Over time, people change. Over time, people have new thoughts, new ideas, new characteristics. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. People evolve. Their personalities evolve. I mean, their basic intrinsic characteristics may or may not change depending on their life conditions. I mean, some people are horrible and they have a road to Damascus moment and they change, be it in prison or be it in real life or what have you. Other people never mature or stay the same, but the vast majority of mankind changes as they age. So I hate the idea that people don't, but it's the same thing with a doctor. He will change and develop as he goes through incarnations, the same way we do, Mm-hmm. And I like that about him.
So much so to where even when comparing a previous version of himself with the current version of himself, there's a diversity of thought there to where his thought patterns aren't even the same, which I guess would be the explanation for my next question of why Hartnell was able to so simply answer the question as to what is this weird time entity that was chasing them, and they said, we can't figure it out, we don't really know what it is. And then Hartnell said, it's so simple, it's a time bridge. What time bridge is for, they're for crossing. And Pertwee and Trutton didn't know what this thing was, and they're trying to appease this weird antimatter creature, and they're like, but we don't know how to deal with it. And then Hartnell shows up, who is a previous version of them. He goes, it's obvious, it's the time bridge. And
right.
Why is it that he knew that the answer to that and they didn't? It's because,
well, once again,
they're separate people. They have different thought patterns and different
knowledges, different memories,
which is strange. It's like a previous version of myself being able to solve a puzzle because I thought differently than I do now, to where now I wouldn't know how to solve that puzzle anymore.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, I was so much smarter when I was younger. I could solve things so much better. I mean, the Sudoku wasn't a thing when I was a kid, but if it would have been, I would have been able to do it so much better than I was now.
When did Sudoku come around?
I don't know, 90s, 2000s? But
I feel like it's been around forever.
Yeah, that's part of the thing. But I mean, when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, Sudoku wasn't a thing. Not at all. But that's part of it. It's like people change. They get more experienced. They get more knowledgeable. In some cases, they get more senile. They get less knowledgeable. It just depends on what they've done, what they're going through. I mean, it's just life.
Yes.
What's your next question?
Well, we talked about Jelly Bellies and the Time Eddy. Do we talk about how they were theoretically dead physically while they're in this universe of antimatter? They're kind of like in Davy Jones' locker. And I had to audit some of my death counts because Tyler and Alice got zapped away into this.
But then survived.
Yeah, and they made it back. They crossed back over. So I marked them as deaths, but then...
So how many total deaths do we actually have?
Well, really...
it was like 4 soldiers, I think.
Only 3 unit soldiers that actually got shot by these...
It's pretty good. It's less than 1 per episode. Wow. Well, and Omega.
And Omega died, yeah.
Okay, so 4 deaths, 1 per episode. 3 unit soldiers at Omega. But yeah, actually not that bad a death rate.
Not an incredibly violent episode, but very much put me on the edge of my seat the entire watch through. Very jam-packed with action. I also wrote down a side note here about the Doctor's pride, and I wanted to compare and contrast the Doctors to Omega, and how Omega is kind of this tragic story of this character who's just gone insane because of his solitude and how he's used every ounce of his willpower to sort of keep in line his own existence and pull himself together and create this world out of his own willpower, and how throughout this existence he's become, insane with pride at the fact that he was able
Hubris.
to prevail, and he also felt cheated and abandoned to where he was never rescued. He made this incredible sacrifice to provide the Time Lords with this power, this energy source that allows them to time travel, and they thought he died in this black hole collapse, supernova, and he felt, it was so obvious that he was still around, that they abandoned him, and that he was seeking revenge. But it's also, he talks about the dark side of his mind. And do you think there's a dark side of every Time Lord's mind? It's kind of like Star Wars, where there's the dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force, and it's this battle of good and evil that exists within all of us. And
most people have a light and a dark side.
yeah, do you think it's like, what if the Doctor fell into corruption, or
Wait till we get to the 6th Doctor.
the War Doctor?
No, the 6th Doctor.
Well, okay. I guess this question will be answered later. I just thought it was a really cool villain, Omega was, and there's a lot of character development
He is.
and personal struggle, and just this really sad story of kind of insanity that he's fallen into.
Agreed, but one of the 6th Doctor's first acts is to literally choke his companion.
Thanks. Okay. I'm gonna have a heyday with that one.
I'm not kidding you.
I've always gone on about this underlying theme of maybe the Doctor's really evil, and he has his own
he has a dark
self-interest.
side, but he's not evil. All right,
I've
what's your
always
next
played
question?
at the evilness of the Doctor. I wrote down a quote here from Omega: "Without me, there would be no time travel." I guess that just kind of feeds back into my question of wondering how the whole time travel works with the Time Lords and the energy source, and why they need. I guess it was never explained. And then we do talk about later with the 13th Doctor, it kind of retcons everything that was established previously. And
Screw Whitaker.
we don't really know what's going on.
We're waiting on
It's
Series
never
13 to
explained
see if
later.
it's reestablished or forgotten, but screw Whitaker.
The Force of Will is a magic card.
Yes.
Force of Will.
Yeah, 2 blue, 2 colorless. You may cast a card for an alternative casting cost of discarding another blue card and paying 1 life to counter target spell.
Do you want to talk about the nature of will and willpower?
No.
No.
I don't want to talk about Force of Will magic card. Hate that card.
No, not the magic card, just like the force of, not the magic card, but the
Apparently,
nature
if one
of
has
willpower.
enough Force of Will, one can do almost anything.
It's kind of the humans, right? You have humans who are both physical and sort of metaphysical, and it's this scientific contradiction of to where science is what's physical and what's observable, and then there are the things that are unobservable and unphysical, and it's this contradiction of science and faith and knowledge, and we don't really know how the mind works, and we know what's physically human, but we don't know what's not physically human. And is that the spirit, the soul, the willpower, the mental power? And it's like, what is consciousness? There's physicalness to it. Is it just chemical reactions in your brain? Does that mean there's such a thing as willpower or free will if you're just a product of your environment and it's just chemicals reacting in your head?
Human beings do have will. That will is a powerful thing.
There's a certain amount of being human that's not physical. Which sounds prideful in a way that like a lot of people would consider humans just, mentally evolved to the point where they're on the top of the food chain, and but they're just strictly these physical beings. But there's something more than physical to being human.
You do want to make every episode a 2-hour episode, don't you?
It's just. I thought it related to. It got me thinking. This serial is, like you said, it's only 4 episodes. It's so jam packed. You sort of explore the nature of existence in this episode. And there's a lot to talk about, but it's just got me thinking. But other than that, I'm trying to read my note here. I can't read this one here. So did you talk about how the episode 4 ended, and you have Joe and Pertwee in the TARDIS, and his dematerialization circuit shows up, and then all of a sudden all his memories of the dematerialization codes and coordinates are restored, and the Doctor says, "They have forgiven me," meaning the Time Lords had forgiven him and lifted his... God bless you.
Hey.
Blew out the speakers. We apologize if you're wearing headphones while listening to the podcast.
No, I did not get to that. At the very end, after everyone else is gone in the TARDIS, a dematerialization circuit shows up with the TARDIS sound, and...
Bless you.
Thank you. And the Doctor's like, yep, Time Lords have forgiven me. Here's a brand new dematerialization circuit. I'm gonna put it in. We can go places. Joe Grant's like, so you're gonna be off then? He's like, well, not yet. I need to rebuild the force field. And that was the end.
Yeah. So the Doctor said they have forgiven me, meaning the Time Lords had forgiven him.
Yep.
The Doctor, what did they forgive him for?
Well,
why? Can we talk about why he was marooned on Earth as the end of Troughton going into Pertwee, and they forced him to regenerate?
That's what they forgave him for.
For what?
Well, for interfering in other planets and other peoples, which is why they sentenced Troughton to regeneration.
But that was necessary to...
But they've now forgiven him. He's had clemency.
I feel like his interference was for the good of Earth, which you think...
Okay, so if you kill someone to save someone else, someone who's a victim, someone who's being beaten, you may be completely exonerated in court, but you also may be sentenced for manslaughter. Not murder, because it wasn't murder, but manslaughter. So he was serving out the penalty for manslaughter, even though he did it to save people. Now he has been given clemency, and he will go back to being a time traveler.
So you're saying the Time Lords' justice system is just as broken as America's?
Very probably, yes.
Guilty until proven innocent, basically.
Oh God, I pray that's never the case here, but
it really is right now, though. If you think about it.
No politics. No politics.
I mean, that's what it is. We won't talk about it.
Yeah. That's why we drink. Yay, drunk Doctor Who. Yeah.
Well, that's about it. I wrote down one more note that I can't read here. It says the recorder or Vecorder.
Recorder.
The recorder is considerably more than just
Well, yeah, because it was the only true matter item that existed in the antimatter universe. When the Omega knocked out of their hands, it caused the end of his world and him.
That's what I wanted to talk about. I remember now. You're right.
Yay. Okay, next time.
They let down the force field to be transported into the black hole.
Mm-hmm.
But you would earlier when they're kerfuffling over the control panel, the Troughton dropped his recorder into the shaft or whatever, and it fell into the force field generator. So how I think of it is the force field is not an on-off switch; it's an expand and So you have the force field generator that fits over the TARDIS and protects it, and then when you turn it off, it goes back into just, which meant the recorder that fell into the shield generator was protected within this antimatter force field thing, which kept it from being reconstructed into a thing that can exist within the antimatter black hole universe singularity place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it was still regular matter, which
Right.
when Omega toppled the force field generator and the recorder fell and it made contact with the antimatter, and antimatter can't exist, and it created this chain reaction of explosion, and that's what I thought that was an important plot element. To clarify on. It can be confusing because I was confused, so that's why I wrote down a note to talk about it.
Okay. Next time is Carnival with Monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 episodes. And we will also hopefully do season 8 best episode.
Yeah, we have
We've done season 7.
catching up to do.
Right. But we should do every other week for the season stuff because otherwise we'll catch up too quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry this was so long despite only being
It's
4
not that
episodes.
long. There's a lot of
You want every episode
things
to
to
be 2
cover.
hours.
There's
Our
a lot
first
to
episodes
cover.
were like half an hour, 45 minutes.
I know that. Would you prefer that?
I want it to be organic, but I don't want it to be, we gotta push it to whatever,
No, it's a lot to cover. There's a lot of a lot of nature of to explore of the self and mind and corporealism.
Right. See you next week. Like, subscribe. You got little tags there because I finally figured out how to put the tags there.
Oh.
Or watch another video or what the heck ever. We like, but we don't care. But it's all good because we're doing it to get drunk. All right. Goodbye.